All right. Jim, everyone. This is Dr. Josh from Crypto Mondays Global. I am so excited today because I have a true OG, not only in the Web3 world, but also of Crypto Mondays. I have the co-founder of Crypto Mondays here, James Haft.
So it's good.
Yeah, nobody knows where we're at, right? But we will reveal it. All right. So let me
All
take
right.
my
All right.
sunglasses off
I'll
and
join you.
enjoy here. We're in the Matrix. All right. Well, I have actually a surprise for you today. I know that you are the co-founder of Crypto Mondays, and you are officially the oldest James in Crypto Mondays, right? Today, so you're the oldest James in Crypto Mondays. You're the co-founder of Crypto Mondays. Today, I'm also bringing into the conversation James Ryder, who just kicked off or re-kicked off Crypto Mondays Malta, and he's the youngest James in Crypto Mondays world. So we have now the oldest James and the youngest James. Both of these guys have great beards. All right, so that's also interesting. And James Bond might join us later. What's up?
Very interesting. Very interesting.
All
Hey,
right.
James, nice to meet you.
Hey, James, nice to meet you.
I don't want to disappoint you, but you're probably not the youngest James.
Likely not. Likely
Exactly.
not.
Exactly.
I am for sure. I am the latest James to take over a Crypto Mondays chapter.
Exactly. Exactly. I would call that the latest victim, but we'll talk about that later.
Pretty much.
Okay.
That's true. All right, James. James Ryder. Just for our audience who doesn't know him, he's actually a pretty famous comedian. He's done some crazy things, like ran for prime minister and got like the 9th or 10th spot up on the debate stage in Malta, debating for the wildest type of policies you can imagine. So he's a great satirist, and we're working on right now a nightly show, which is or like a late night show with James Ryder that'll be all about Web3, crypto, AI, emerging tech, and super funny. So happy to have you here, James, and hopefully we can have a little bit of a mentoring session with the first James and last James here about starting stuff later. But let me jump in because our audiences are already clicking away by this time. So James Haft, the Haft. We'll call him the Haft. Don't hassle the Haft. So James,
Or half wit would work also.
what have you been up to since we had Crypto Mondays together a couple of years ago in New York City, and you were the keynote? What's your current projects?
Well, Crypto Mondays, Lou Kerner and I founded Crypto Mondays because we knew in 2016 that this was a thing. And we really wanted to be in the middle of it. But honestly, Lou and I had finance backgrounds and community backgrounds, but we didn't really have technical backgrounds. And while I've been waiting for the digitization of information to become more and more important and become more of a tool, for humanity and for self-sovereignty, in 2016, we really needed to learn. And so what we did was we pulled together Crypto Mondays, first in New York and then moving globally. And I'll tell you a funny story about Malta in a little bit. And we just started to have meetups where we brought together people who were better, faster, and smarter than we were, so that we could learn. Because we figured the best way to learn and the best way to become part of the community was to host and to give. So we offered these opportunities for people to come and share with us, where we were buying drinks, honestly, and negotiating a venue and bringing people together. No one was more surprised than we were, about the success. And then once it was successful in New York, I started to travel around the world to find people who would want to be representing us, representing Crypto Mondays, sharing the energy and making this opportunity available to more people. And we went around the world and found people to run, to represent Crypto Mondays globally, because we realized that we couldn't be every place at every time. So we really had to trust, the intelligence of the crowd. And also, one of my philosophies as a decentralist, which I am, is that my definition of success is I leave the room and it gets better, right? That, if I leave the room and it starts to fail, then it really wasn't the community powering it, it's time to move on to the next opportunity. Crypto Mondays, we were lucky. The fire caught and spread. And now we have a really vibrant community around the world in 70 cities, 30 countries. There's many ways to count the people, but it's, we've touched hundreds of thousands of lives through Crypto Mondays over the past 6 or 7 years. And so Crypto Mondays, has become a way to be in the room and connect energy with fantastic people who, tend to have really interesting ideas on how they want to change the world. Most of the people at Crypto Mondays are in some way outliers. They're not the common thread. And so it's really great to give these people who are usually not that socially adept, and usually, who are trying to figure out, are they they're in a dark room. Can you turn on a light switch and see who else is there? And that's kind of what Crypto Mondays is about. For me, I was lucky. It turned into the opportunity to launch the first publicly traded Web3 company, which I did in 2021. It was called DLTX. I listed in Norway, of all places, during the middle of the pandemic. And we were the largest provider of Filecoin services in the United States as a publicly listed company in Norway. And 2 years ago, I sold that business, and I've moved on now to the things that I really care about, which is offering the world the opportunity to have self-sovereignty and censorship-resistant relationships and knowledge and capital and custody of of your identity, and really start to use Web3 and distributed ledger for a way to protect humanity and offer an alternative route for growth and for relationships to go through the next century. Right? We've had capitalism now. It's done its job. It's obvious that we're at the outer limits of the capitalist system. And the question is, what's next? And it doesn't have to be some acronym that gets people upset, or that there's diametrically opposed, concepts. There's going to be a morphing. There's going to be a growth and a evolution of how relationships work, about how money works, about how self-sovereignty works. And so I've been lucky to partner with Michael Casey from CoinDesk, who's now my partner in DAIS, which is Decentralized AI Society. And I'm trying to do for Decentralized AI what Lou and I did for crypto. And that is give a place for people who want to create the future, which isn't necessarily tethered to the past. And to allow new power structures and new relationship methodologies to come about, and to prevent us from becoming slaves to the system. Back to the reference of the Matrix. And so what I've been doing is focusing on supporting companies and protocols and entrepreneurs that are focused on decentralized AI, so taking the ideas of self-sovereignty and non-transmutable data and facts, and take that and move that forward to actually applications that can affect us on a daily basis.
Awesome, man. Now, all that stuff's really meaningful and powerful to me, and for people that know these concepts, things like that. But James, like other James, Ryder. I'm just gonna call you Ryder.
Ryder. I think he's young. He's young James.
Young James. Okay, young James, and what would I call you? Younger James? Intermediate James?
I'm always the oldest person in the room in crypto. So just call me old James. It's fine.
Old James.
Exactly.
Right, so,
or Gandalf or something. I don't know.
Young James, what's your take on everything that old James just said?
I mean, it's a hell of an ideal situation, and it's and God willing, it is an ideal that we move closer towards. But the thing is, you have to understand that someone like me is miles away, further from conceiving that than, let's say, Josh, simply because, there's this awesome idea of, self-sovereignty and decentralization and restriction on censorship. I am from the European Union. All we've been doing for the past 20 years is more intensive regulation. So the thing is, and even like you said, what you just said, capitalism has done its job, and we're now moving closer towards this new way that a new relationship when it comes to money and all that. I think that's going to happen regardless, because especially with the new economy getting closer than ever, we're about what, 5-7 years away from 1 billion jobs being pushed into redundancy. So I think that's where I'd say that's where we're headed either way. And obviously, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I'm very excited to see what. I'm very excited not just for the developing technology, but also what that's going to bring along with it. Because back in 2007, a particularly sharp man with jeans and a black turtleneck brought this out and effectively, changed the world. Completely reshaped how we see the phone and all that. And I think Web3 and crypto and AI is going to do that in a much, much bigger way. Now, I myself am a hell of a rookie. I've been in the world of crypto now for a whopping 6 months. But I have Wesley Alul. He's a hell of a mentor, and I've been picking up insanely well. But yeah, I feel like right now, this, if I had to equate it to anything, because like I have friends, especially in the area, who say like, oh, we're too late for crypto. It's been around since 2009. And honestly, I compare it that right now we are in the California gold rush. Like, there's us who are going up and just harvesting all we can out of this, because eventually the rest of the world has to get on board with it, because that's what it's going to be. Especially.
All right.
But there's some themes in there, and what young James was saying that you could pay attention to, which kind of lets you tether all this to history and how humanity works. I mean, one of my theories is it doesn't really matter what the asset is. I used to do emerging markets investment banking in Asia for Bear Stearns. And then I did Latin America, and then I did Eastern Europe. And then I started to realize there were patterns that were happening. And then I started to realize those patterns aren't necessarily related to the assets. It wasn't emerging markets that had the patterns. It was humanity, humans that have the patterns. And as humans look at open ocean opportunities, these blue ocean opportunities, we tend to underestimate in the short term. We overestimate in the short term what impact they're going to have, and in the long run, we underestimate what the impact's going to be.
Yeah.
Right. And so what's happening is, if you look at what James was saying about the iPhone, I'm a huge Steve Jobs fan. He is my 100% my idol, James Bond, and Steve Jobs. And so Steve Jobs introduced the iPhone. He said this is going to be the killer gaming platform and communication platform, and everyone looked at him like he's an idiot. It's a telephone. Shut up and go back to your corner, right? But he was right. I mean, think about how much time you spend on that little iPhone now has turned into the gaming and communications and telecommunications device. That is the most used by any of any device. And it's the one we depend on the most, right? And the same thing is happening now about all these people are that, crypto's already done its run and crypto, it's over, right? They don't and AI, I mean, decentralized AI is over before it even started because it's so obvious, blah, 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 right? But the truth is these things haven't started yet, right? We're in the bottom of the first inning. maybe the top of the second inning, in baseball terms, for those Europeans out there. It's a very beginning for crypto, and AI hasn't even started yet, right? AI, yeah, and what we have now isn't even AI yet. What we have now is, is the ability to do hypercompute and make it democratized, so you can process the hell out of things and give an answer as if
Yeah.
you're thinking. But it hasn't happened. It happened yet, and there's no uses for this crap on a daily basis yet. Right? It's going to come out, but we're going to want to do more than crypto trading and a bot. Right? That's not what AI is about. And so, one of the things is to keep your eyes on the horizon, right, and really kind of see where this stuff is going, and don't be staring at your feet. Just because you can do a bot that says dumb things on Twitter, and sometimes can fool you and make it think it's a human because you don't spend enough time outside of your house. Right? That's not AI, right? And so we're so early in this stuff, and people, if you keep your your head up, and you take about 10% of your value of your liquid wealth, and you keep betting it on that future, eventually you're going to hit it, right? And you're going to be there, and that's really where what needs to. That's the change that's going to happen. Is that as we don't understand these technologies until there's a killer app, right? And people, walk around and say, well, there's no killer app for crypto. And I say, well, that's completely wrong, because Bitcoin is the killer app, right now, because Bitcoin's not the technology. The technology is distributed ledger, right?
Yeah.
And the Bitcoin blockchain. Okay, those are the technologies. The app, Bitcoin, there's never been an asset that grew as fast as, in terms of number of users and value as Bitcoin. Now, AI has kind of taken on that crown, because nothing's ever grown faster than AI in terms of how fast OpenAI grew, and ChatGPT, and how many users they brought on, and how useful that is. And that just shows you that every time you think it's over, it's not. Something else comes up. There's going to be another Chat GPT that's going to be next. It might be Chat JFH. I always joke. But there's going to be these next turns, and we're just not good at seeing it because we get so fixated on our feet. Chat GPT came out. That's the end of it. Everyone go on vacation. There's not going to be any jobs anymore. Right, but that doesn't mean that's the end. That means that UBI comes into existence and becomes important, which I believe it will. Or it means that you have, instead of, when I started investment banking 20, 30 whatever, blah 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 years ago, I was there when the first personal computer came into the investment bank, and I was a analyst there, and I used to be doing my spreadsheets in pencil, on big pieces of paper that had boxes in them, so you keep order, and everything was freaking wrong. And if you had to change a number, you were totally screwed. That was another week of work, right? And then we got these PCs in, and all of a sudden the senior guy said, okay, do 17 iterations. But it happened to be an iteration on an original computer took a weekend. Right, but that was the end. I now had the computer, and I could do an iteration a weekend. Wow, this is amazing, right? And now we have supercomputers that do the work of that computer, in literally a millionth of the time, right? And now we're at the point where I no longer need to know how to use that computer, because by using these AI modalities, I can use English language, and the job is no longer to understand how to use Excel, or how to use, which none of you guys even use anymore, right? Or Google Sheets. It's how do I type it in to a prompt window. And so the skill that I need now isn't to understand, how to use the apps themselves. The skill I need to know is how to write a prompt, right? And the people that are going to get paid big amounts of money, and they're going to do it, are the ones who know now how to program this level of technology that we have today. And that's going to be different. In a very short while, it's going to be conversational. I'm going to turn on my computer and say, hey, computer, and you can pretty close to do this on ChatGPT today. Hey, computer, I'm looking for apartments in Greece where I just moved, and show me the 10 most attractive apartments that are within this price range, that are this close to the ocean, that have this, and I'll just be able to see it if I understand, and then I'll have to perfect my prompts, and the art that will be valued will be writing the prompts and perfecting the prompts. not using a computer, not typing it in, not understanding how it works, right? If you think about it, I have this phone, right? And I have my car, and I have airplanes, and I have televisions. They all have tens of thousands of protocols inside them. I don't know any of them. I'm an art history major, okay? Last thing I programmed was in BASIC in 1985, right? But I am able to use all these tools.
Old James.
The problem with crypto, and the problem with and the problem with AI right now is that you actually need to know something to use it, right? And so we need to get to the point where you no longer need to know what protocol, what application, what browser, what computer, and just be able to speak and control. And then you'll have mass adoption, and then you'll have the impact on humanity and the ability to take care of it. But we're not there yet.
Wait a second. Let me just jump in here. Now you just talked about like young James's ideals, but now you're kind of giving an idealistic framing of this, where AI is going to just make things better, and that we have to open it up, and we don't see right now where it's going to go. But you know what? It can go several ways, right? Reality collapses into a single reality, and it could go the way that it seems to me, from my perspective, going of total centralized control with these few Silicon Valley or whoever companies that are trying to take over, or a way where people can counteract that with decentralization. And you mentioned, I know you're very much into, and young James will also jump on this, Metaverse. And I know you're an early investor in Metaverses and things like that, old James. And you talk about decentralized jurisdictions and Metaverse jurisdictions. And when we think about this concept of decentralized AI, decentralized Metaverse, why is this so important in relation to human freedom and human flourishing? Because my opinion is that everything reverts back to the mean, and so AI is going to have an effect where it won't actually expand unless human freedom can flourish. What's your thoughts on all that, man?
So I would, first of all, disagree with your original premise. I don't think there is a single reality. I think, without being crass about it, in a form, we all live inside our own simulation, right? And reality is your perception multiplied out, geometrically by other people's realities. And as they start to converge, you start to have, what people call reality or truth or fact, right? But you see your own world.
It's a fact that Google could shut this conversation down right now. It's
right,
a fact that OpenAI can turn off ChatGPT right
That's why Jitsi. But that's exactly right. But that's not the single reality, right? There are other programs we can use, and so my hope that are decentralized. That's why I focus on decentralization. That's why I focus on decentralized AI. So there is a danger, and it is dangerous to have monolithic, secretive entities that have different interests than you do, controlling the means of communication, the means of storing value, the means of allocating identity, the means of gating how you can communicate with other people. Those things have tended towards being centralized. But now people think that that blockchain is changing the world or decentralization is changing the world. And I don't agree with that. What I think is happening is humanity needs an alternative to these centralized gates. And we've hooked onto distributed ledger and decentralization as a way to circumvent these controls and to reclaim our individuality.
Right.
And so, I think people in my mind, tend to confuse causality. They get it backwards almost always. Because they feel like they're suffering and they're controlled. And so I think, turn it around, I think decentralization exists because humanity wants it and because we're searching for a way to not be imprisoned. And now, yes, we make decisions and we make mistakes and we don't understand the cost of privacy or the cost of security. We undervalue those. But but if I can go into another one of my vignettes here, humanity surrendered we surrendered our rights as humans voluntarily, hundreds of years ago, because we were desperately seeking order out of chaos. And so we created these centralized authorities like governments and the military and political boundaries and religion and education, and we surrendered our individuality to these centralized concepts because we believed that would get us to order and the ability to grow with, and to minimize conflict and to have a framework with a social contract. And what happened was those entities that we gave up our authority to, that we gave up our individuality to, our rights, every one of them started to realize that they couldn't be powerful, that they couldn't succeed unless they figured out a way to use violence to keep us in control. They need us. Religion needs us more than we need religion. The educational system needs us more. The government needs our support more than we need it. Right. And so the government started to understand. They used incentive in the beginning, but that doesn't really work. So let's use violence. Let's tell people that they're going to be excommunicated. Let's tell them they're going to hell. Let's tell them they're not valuable if they didn't go to Yale or Harvard. Let's tell them, that we're throwing them in jail if they talk to the wrong person, or if they don't use our money, or if they don't pay attention to our laws. Right. And so we surrendered our rights as individuals to groups that became self-aware. And the analogy that I tell is like the computer HAL in 2001: Space Odyssey, right? HAL's job was to protect the mission. Now the astronauts thought protecting the mission was protecting them, but HAL had a different idea. HAL thought, these guys are screwing it up. I got to get rid of them, right? And so the seminal scene is, open the pod bay door, HAL, and HAL, as a Dave, I can't do that. Right, because Dave, you're endangering the mission, and so that difference. And so what's happened now is we've started to understand this better, and the leaders in thought and action are starting to build in decentralized ways to create alternatives to make it so that you can protect yourself from how the computer locking you out of the building, from the bank telling you it's not your money, from the government telling you have to leave the United States because they don't like the color of your skin, right? And all these things are happening in parallel. They're all the same thing. They're all fractals. It's all the same thing over and over. And decentralization is a way for us to create a parallel or a reality which slices through this thing this place that we've allowed ourselves to be imprisoned. And that leads to metaverses, right? Metaverse is not a shiny place to play games. A metaverse is a jurisdiction which is governed by code, by law, where the mathematics are the law, and where you have certainty on the outcome because it's transparent and it's mathematical. And once you have this digital existence and this digital currency and this digital information and this digital identity, all of a sudden you can choose which jurisdiction you want to be in, not based on where your mother happened to be standing when she gave birth to you, or the person that thinks that they own you because they gave you a passport. But all of a sudden you can take this reality that's you, that can be represented by one or millions of avatars that are digitized with wallets that follow your commands. And you can now say, if I want to be in this jurisdiction because it protects my anonymity, because it protects or because I'll make more money there, whatever you want. Right. And then if it doesn't turn out to be true, or it changes and you don't like it, you pick your digital assets up and you move to another jurisdiction. So all of a sudden, the jurisdictions, instead of using force to keep you in or penalties, right, all of a sudden they have to use incentive because there's many of them and they're fungible and you can be wherever you want and your assets are transportable and your identity is transportable. And so I'm hoping is that we get this new world where you can start to move forward and choose which set of laws you'd like to do, and choose your neighbors, and choose the people that you want to associate with going forward, and do it on your own without being told how to do it, and without being penalized or being surprised by the outcomes.
What's the difference between that metaverse vision that you're talking about and the network states? This Balaji's in the network states, just to help clarify.
The network states it's very similar. The network states, Balashi's doing something interesting and different, and in a way, some ways more comprehensive. The problem with my view and the way I'm looking at it is what happens to your physical being, right? We're not in the matrix. We're not batteries, in a cocoon somewhere. We actually have to have our feet somewhere. We have to eat. We want shelter, and so Balashi's trying to be practical and create these environments where there's really a mix of digital and physical, and how does that all work? A lot of people think that the physical world is more secure and more predictable, and more realistic because of these things that you need. Honestly, when I look at assets, I much prefer digital assets and digital identity to physical, because I think physical are things that other people can take from you using force, right? If you think gold is better than Bitcoin, right? Then I don't know, how do you store it? How do you carry it around? And if somebody else wants it from you, we spend trillions of dollars on a military to protect Fort Knox, essentially, right? And so that's not realistic to protect it. I'd much rather have Bitcoin that I could put onto my ledger, hide the ledger somewhere on a different continent from where I am, I think that's more secure. But there's an educational process that's going on, and it's slow, and it's going to make mistakes, and people are going to get burned, and there's going to be all kinds of issues where people can point and say it's not working, and to me that's progress. That's what it looks like.
What do you think, young James? You think that's where do you think that the metaverse and this digital jurisdiction is going, and digital ownership from a young person's view?
Were you about to call me little James?
I held back on that.
I could tell. I can tell you,
well,
young James.
Young James. You're not little at all. I mean,
yeah,
that's
no,
pretty
I'm
clear.
At 250. I gotta get control of that.
You're little in no way.
Yeah, no. Maybe in some places, but I'm not going to talk about that on a crypto-related forum. So, okay, the problem. There's not a problem. I mean, the thing is, again, these what are being. There are some things that are being mentioned here that come full circle when it comes to certain things. You mentioned crypto, how crypto or digital assets in general are better than physical assets. Why? Because it's safer. If someone wants to take your physical asset, they can just barge in with a ram or a hammer and just go ahead and take what's yours. Which kind of comes full circle when it comes to the banking system, because that's how it started. Like, hey, if you don't want your money stolen, keep it with us. Why? It's safer. No one can take it. Then what came?
Trust us.
Yeah, trust us. Then came bank robbers, and now with the rise of digital assets come digital heists. And as we know, recently, even some of the bigger companies have been hit by smart enough cookies. The thing is with Metaverse, the one flaw I see, at least on my side of the pond, is that okay, digitally you can be within any jurisdiction you want that is not tied by your identity or nationality. But the problem is that there is always going to be the physical tether. So okay, we can have the metaverse, but at the end of the day, it is us, our meat and bone pilot, which is essentially controlling the avatar, and it is our physical form that is still very much under heavy jurisdiction. Now,
are you sure it's not little James controlling the big James?
Only after a few margaritas. But even like when I hear of this concept you were saying of these communities being built which could be outside of jurisdictions, and again this is from the knowledge that I have. So consider me a day walker when it comes to the layman and crypto person. But this concept this concept, how would it be different from like the out of grid communes that grew so popular in the United States throughout the 60s? So you have some people who just go off somewhere and they declare sovereignty towards themselves, and they pretty much rule themselves rather than being ruled by a governing agency. So
Thomas More, Utopia. That's a classic.
Yes,
that's what it was in the
1700s. Right,
1700s.
but listen, I'm not like a utopian, right? And look at what's happening in the world right now today. When the world order changes, right? And I don't know, if they look from 40,000 feet down on what's happening on the earth right now, I don't see us heading towards stability and peace on a global basis. I see, the trend being in the opposite direction right now, as people are trying to reestablish the world order, right? And so this lack of respect for what is there historically and what's here today, and what people are willing to put up, what people are willing to put up with in terms of going forward. I think people are getting closer to their breaking point and are willing to, smash the current reality and try and reform a new reality. And I think you have this happening on a lot of different levels. I'm a big believer in fractals, that if you see something in one place, it's probably happening everywhere else. Things don't happen, on their own. So the things we're looking in terms of land conflicts is very similar to what we're looking at in terms of, the definition of finance globally with Bitcoin and decentralization, is very similar to what's happening with religions around the world, very similar to what's happening in the educational systems around the world. I mean, they're all breaking down. They're all in these tectonic shift periods. And during tectonic shifts, you get earthquakes and you get volcanic eruptions, right? And that's kind of where I see us now across the board. And while it can be terrible to be caught in front of the steamroller, of history here. It's not. There's a lot of places where it's not comfortable, to be physically. On the other hand, these are the times where generational wealth is made and transferred by people who are willing to understand that tomorrow may not be like that. That tomorrow may not be like yesterday. Right. And so while you have to protect yourself and remain human and do the right thing as a human, it's also the time to look around and say, what do these changes mean? And where are there going to be quantum changes in value and in safety? And how do I take care of my responsibility to myself, my family, my loved ones, and humanity in general? Right. And I think that's where we are right now, is one of those periods where change.
Wow, he just got caught up. I don't know. He's got a slow. James, we just lost you. Where you said we're changed.
There, man.
Where are you?
So where change is happening. Well, one of the things that's changing is also, like, I like what James has started off when he's talking about building the community and then stepping back and then stepping out and letting the other people take the community and seeing where it goes. And that's what's happened with Crypto Mondays. And one of the things that I introduced last year 2 years ago in India was the youngest crypto degen ever on Crypto Mondays. There was a 1-year-old. And when I did Crypto Mondays Bangalore. And then last year, I had the opportunity, because I was in Vienna and did the Christmas party there, the big Christmas party they had. I had the youngest crypto degen, which was 45 days old. And I'd like now, because we have her right here, and we have the oldest Crypto Mondays degen, the middle Crypto Mondays degen, and the youngest Crypto Mondays degen. This is Layla, and
Hi, Layla.
she's super excited. Hey, And when James is talking about the future generations and preparing it and thinking about that and how people are doing pressure to disrupt these systems, we have to think about like not only ourselves but the next generation of freedom seekers like you. Yeah.
Layla,
And
thank you
she's
so much for joining us. How do you feel about the current European micro-regulations pressing down on Gemini?
What do you think, Layla? Are those some pretty serious regulatory issues?
Hopefully she throws up.
She's
Keep
like,
shaking,
let's throw up.
keep shaking, but not too violently. Okay.
She's like, I'm gonna join. She said, I want to party. Let's go to Malta and party, or because we have a huge announcement today with James. So we already have now. We're taking over the Mediterranean with crypto events, right? So we've already got now Malta, and which was one of our original Crypto Mondays, by the way, because Malta was the place. It was Blockchain Island. A guy named Pedro. You remember Pedro? Of course, James knows Pedro. Who's
I was going to tell that story how Lou and I founded in New York.
Yeah.
So Lou and I founded in New York, and at that event were two people who were really special, which was Erica Gemma from Miami and Caitlin Argo from London.
Yeah.
And the two of them at Crypto Mondays, 001, a lot of alcohol was shared, and they were decided that they were going to do Miami and London. And Lou and I were like, absolutely, you're going to do Miami and London, go for it. And then I flew out to Malta to go to the event that Sigma was running, and I was told I had to meet Pedro Rivera, who was from Puerto Rico, and we hit it off. Pedro was a unique human being and a huge heart, and a big personality. And Pedro, was asking, I want to do, and I was like, I anointed him. I said, go for it, my friend. And he did an amazing job. But one of the largest chapters in the world ended up being Puerto Rico. I actually moved to Puerto Rico, incidentally, a couple of years ago, and was down there, and I had 500 friends, on day one, because Pedro had done such an amazing job at springing up CryptoMondays, and that all happened in Malta.
That's so interesting.
wow.
I didn't know that. I didn't know, because here's the thing: we're usually late to the party on most things, right? Like within the past, we haven't even had Starbucks for the past 5 years. So I always figured like we were one of like the last places to be considered. I didn't know that Malta was one of like the first places being eyed when it came to Crypto Mondays.
100%.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, and then I did Crypto Mondays Malta at Sigma, where I was a keynote speaker just 2 years later, and met Pedro there in Malta too. And that was a pretty cool thing. But Malta was ahead of the game, and then because of the so much misuse of
Actually going to start up a regular meetup in Athens for Crypto Mondays. I understand there's been a Crypto Mondays here previously. Like many of the Crypto Mondays, they come and they go. They tend to get more populated when Bitcoin goes up, then they tend to get a little more sparse when Bitcoin goes down. I can't imagine why.
Little sparse.
What do I know? What do I know? And so, but I really want to pull together the community, and I look at myself a little bit as a Pied Piper, bringing people in. I have an experience in historical finance, and I'm trying to look forward. So there is, I think like the second week of July, I'm going to start with, in Athens with an idea, and I'll probably go around the Mediterranean, different places. The idea is I will be around just like I tended to be around Puerto Rico. I was around New York, but the truth is my first job will be to find someone who wants to be me and wants to be that leader in the local community and have them take it over. Because the truth is I'm unreliable. So, I'd like to find someone who actually has it, and is able to carry it on a daily basis. And what I try and do is be like Adam, the invisible hand, the Adam Smith kind of concept, where I can, help as much as I can, but I don't need recognition and I don't need to own it. I actually don't even want to own it. I want other people to own it because it's their energy. Around the world, I've done these Crypto Mondays, and we have the followers in Lou also. And people always come up to me and thank me, which is really kind, and I really do appreciate it. But I always say the same thing back to them, and with all seriousness, which is, don't thank me, thank you, right? Because without you, I would be sitting at home playing my PlayStation, and there wouldn't be a Crypto Mondays, right? I'm not the part that's needed. The part that's needed is the community. The community drives value in crypto. And so it's what I try and do is create the empty vessel and allow other people to fill it, allow other people to own it, allow other people to profit from it. And then just, it makes me A, feel good to know that I'm doing it, and B, I do find ways, to find relationships and opportunities through this network, and, everybody else can do the same thing.
Absolutely. And you know what? I've noticed so that, I've tried to create new formats and different versions of Crypto Mondays that include the arts, that include comedy, that include events that aren't the typical, networking meetup, talk about Bitcoin, because that's a bit boring, actually. And tell us what your vision is in general, and why community is important to you, and how you intend to build that. And let's see what OJ thinks about that.
Okay, so when it comes to vision, first of all, I like where I am when it comes to my level of expertise, or thereof the lack of it, because I feel it gives me a very good advantage when it comes to things like mass adoption, because I am in the middle line where I am only just smart enough to know what is needed, but I'm also luckily dumb enough that I can relate to the questions of when it comes to what is keeping the mass populace on the edge when it comes to getting in crypto. So when it comes to a lot of my material and a lot of my rants about crypto, it's that. In fact, in my last rant, I even said that a lot of content creators, when it comes to crypto, they get way too into detail. And this is like the early days of fiat currency. You can't be explaining fractional reserve banking to someone who's still trading bananas for a sack of Brazil nuts. So part of what I want to go for is organic community growth, and not just when it comes to the degens and the investors and the VCs. I also want to bring in new, curious people who are ready to dive into the world of crypto. And that is one of the things I want to be hosting. On top of that, you said so yourself that the crowds tend to be a bit more sparse when Bitcoin is down, a bit more populated when Bitcoin is up. I've managed to find a fun way to circumnavigate that. Our next event this Monday is going to be open bar. So you know what? Depending on where Bitcoin is, you can either cheers to celebrate or drown your sorrows. So either way, we're always going to have a crowd. But more so than that, I feel that would be my duty when it comes to the crypto space. But then I want to find a way to make Malta a signature nation when it comes to Crypto Mondays. So if you say, oh, I'm going to Crypto Mondays in Cancun, oh, okay, cool. But then they say, I'm going to Crypto Mondays Malta. They're like, oh my God, have fun, And one of the ways I'm planning on doing that, even with Josh, we're already planning some pretty fun things for next year.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I've already started developing my first game, because right now my boss, he's very much into gamification, and I'm putting in my own foray with a very fun game, which is still in development. But you guys will know more about that later. But yeah, overall, my vision is to stay as a bit of a crypto layman day walker, but also at the same time, I want to make Malta a signature venue for Crypto Mondays. I want to make it loads of fun. But on top of that, luckily we're in a very convenient location, because we're seeing a lot of giants setting up shop here. So on top of fun, we're also going to be pretty damn educational, and on top of that, we're going to have a pretty good place. We're going to have a pretty good home to network, especially with the kinds of people that Malta tends to attract. You, James, are not that far from us, so if you ever find yourself with a day or two to spare, please come on over, especially for one of our upcoming Crypto Mondays. The beers are on us.
All right, but the beaches aren't as good in Malta as they are in Greece. I just have to let you know, But the people are amazing, and we got all the cool crypto people there, like you mentioned, Wesley. What do you think, James? Is he on the right track for Crypto Mondays' huge success?
100%. I think that listen, it's all energy, right? You're going to get back the energy that you create, right? And I think that young James is 100% on the right track. The humorous asides of being a comedian, because aren't we all comedians? And the idea of running for political office, I love that. It's like the old joke, mom, I don't want to go to England, shut up and keep swimming, right? That's really where we are. Is that you're not going to find your groove unless you keep failing. You got to keep failing forward, and it's not even failing. It's actually what progress looks like. The idea of experimentation and disappointment and redeployment, and listening and feeling. The one thing I would say, James, is make sure you're always listening, right? Because you only really learn when the other person is talking. You don't learn when you're talking, right? And so, the key to me to the growth of Crypto Mondays was that we didn't try and impose ourselves on anybody. If you want to have alcohol, have alcohol. If you don't want to have alcohol, don't have alcohol. You want to do it in the library, do it in the library. You want to do it in a movie theater, do it in a movie theater. You want to bring in the arts, bring in the arts, right? You want to have speakers, right? You want, if you like to talk, I can tell you about a partner I had who likes to talk. So then go use these as the opportunity to talk. I like to listen. So I like having other people talking. But just be open-minded and remember, just keep reminding yourself through it all that you're having fun, that you're waking up in the morning doing what you want to be doing, and that you're going to find a point where you're not unlike other people, and other people are grabbing onto your energy, and it becomes our energy, and that's really what you want to do. You want to be, don't be jealous. Don't hold on to this, right? Let other people do what they want to do with it. Let other people gamify you and use you and redo it. They want to copy you, whatever it is. Don't stand in their way, right? Accept the energy and figure out how, like Tai Chi, grab it in, put it, and then and then push it back out, right? And that the whole thing is to make the game get bigger and bigger, and be in it. Don't be jealous. Be happy. Be generous, and it'll all come. People will recognize you. You get to where you want to be, and by the way, you don't even know where you want to be. It'll help you change and go through growth, and then when you get there, you'll realize that you're in the right direction.
All right, yeah, absolutely, and thank you so much. That means a lot.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much for this special edition OG, OJ, YJ, OG, Young G, Big James, Little James, Old James, Young James. They were all here today.
We got the Star Trek version going on here.
I put on my sunglasses. I only have a whiteboard marker.
I actually needed the sunglasses because I'm sitting here, and the glare was so strong that I was crying. And Josh, I didn't want you to think I was crying because of you, so I put the glasses on. All right.
Well, it could have been, or you could be crying because Bitcoin's down or any of these other things.
Something I don't watch on a daily basis. But yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you very much, everybody. And remember to subscribe to Crypto Mondays Global, or to go visit your local Crypto Mondays if you have one. And if you don't have one, go ahead and start one. You can go to CryptoMondays.io in order to find out more information about that. And if you're in Greece, and make sure to get in touch with James Haft, who's now there and is going to kick something off in July. And if you come into Malta, then make sure to look up Crypto Mondays, look up James Ryder, as Ryder. And wherever you're at, whatever you do, we hope you stay cool and stay awesome and follow your dreams, and just take the advice that James has given you here. This is really, this is better than Bitcoin, really, because it's kind of the enduring life advice from somebody who really built something that expanded out with Lou Kerner. And shout out to Lou and to Caitlin and all the other Crypto Mondays OGs and heads out there. Any last statements before we go?
I feel like if you message the other James, he'll be a lot more efficient because he'll get it done in half the time.
Very funny.
In half the time. Nice.
So, I mean, my closing concept is remember to fail forward.
Fail forward, gang. Okay.
Fail forward.
All right.
Thank you, guys.